Minister, thank you for joining us from Brussels tonight. I mean, AK Chopper, when he spoke today about the good news that the plan is working, but with more than 450,000 people unemployed, businesses struggling, going out of business on a daily basis, for whom they may wonder, is this plan working?
Well, I know it's difficult and it does take time to see the effects of the positive news that we're hearing today from the Troika, but it is positive, and certainly I think when you see that we're coming from a position of negative growth over the last number of years back to a position where we're going to achieve 1% growth this year, our exports are doing better than ever. It will take time for it to trickle down, but the effects will be felt in our economy. We're not in the same position as Greece. We have a sustainable debt burden. It's difficult, it's tough, and the choices ahead remain very, very difficult. But we can do it, and we're determined to do it. And that's the message that we're sending out to the international markets. We intend to return to the markets very, very soon.
Stephen Donnelly?
I would have three reactions to this, Miriam. First is that this is the wrong plan. The IMF plan is the wrong plan. It doesn't deal with the debt. Our debt is not sustainable, and I don't think there's an awful lot of people who think that our debt is sustainable. We know from 200 years of economic history that austerity on its own, which this is, doesn't work. It's only worked once in 200 years, England and the Industrial Revolution. And there's very little stimulus. I know the government would like to have more, but under the current plan, there's very little room for stimulus. That's the first point. The second point is I feel the government's negotiating strategy has been weak. I think the strategy to date has been, let's do everything we're told. Let's get all the gold stars we can. Let's let other countries negotiate, get very substantial write-downs, get great deals, and then let's see what we can get. I think that's a suboptimal approach. I think we should be much more robust, and I think we would get much more. We began to see glimmers of that from the minister, from Minister Noonan, when he said in New York that actually he was going to would like to impose haircuts on the Anglo bondholders. And then just thirdly, I think we are in danger of losing our sovereignty. We heard AJ Chopra today say that there needs to be fiscal consolidation. Fiscal consolidation means that we essentially lose control of running our own country. And I believe he said, you know, I think everyone would agree that fiscal consolidation is coming. I don't agree, and I certainly would like the debate. I was down at the Kenmare Economic Conference where AJ Chopra spoke as well, and again he said, you know, we probably need Euro bonds, and very worryingly, he wasn't challenged in a rigorous way. So I'm concerned about where this is all going.
Okay, Minister, on that bond, you know, the $1 billion bond, during the summer, Michael Noonan was talking about the possibility of trying to get a discount. Is that going to be paid on November the 4th?
What I would say, with the greatest respect to Deputy Donnelly, is that when you're negotiating, you don't blow all of your negotiating tactics from the rooftops. And I think that Michael Noonan's approach and the Taoiseach's approach, and indeed the entire government's approach, has been very nuanced, but it has been achieving results. And that is an indisputable fact. If you look at, firstly, the renegotiation of the Memorandum of Understanding when the new government came into office, we managed to change things like, for example, the cut to the minimum wage. We managed to change many other aspects of the Memorandum of Understanding. We then went on to negotiate a very significant reduction in interest rate and extension.
I think Minister, in fairness,
of our loans.
I absolutely accept.
And that has been a very effective and very important set of achievements, which have already been negotiated.
Minister, I accept that things have changed. I think the reduction in the interest rate was hugely welcome, but the reduction in the interest rate came when Greece got that reduction. We know that Greece has had a 21% haircut applied to the senior bondholders. Where this becomes real for me was recently when myself and some other deputies challenged Minister Noonan in the Dáil. And we said, why has Greece managed to get a 21% reduction in senior bondholder debt and we've got nothing? And the logic the minister gave was this. He said the reason the Greeks could do it was because the bondholders expected it and therefore they entered a voluntary negotiation. The reason the Anglo bondholders won't enter a voluntary negotiation is because they don't expect it. Why don't they expect it? Because we are not letting them know. So, Minister, I absolutely take your point that obviously a lot of negotiation happens behind the scenes, but you must let the markets know that you are serious about
Minister Creighton come back in there. Minister Creighton. I mean, it was a question Donna Diamond, I suppose, put also, Minister, to Michael Noonan, Minister Noonan there earlier today at the press conference. I suppose people will look, they're going through all this austerity. Greece seems to be going to get off with a lot of their, you know, the money they owe. Why don't we?
Greece is not getting off with anything, and I think the package showed very clearly Brendan Howland's reminder of what has happened and what is continuing to happen in Greece. Nothing like the scale of cuts and austerity that's happening in Greece it is happening in Ireland at this point in time. The reality is that the reason that the private sector involvement, so-called, was agreed on the 21st of July in relation to Greece is because Greek debt is not sustainable, and because Greece needs to be rescued. Ireland does not need to be rescued. I mean, you began the package by talking about our paymasters. Our economic sovereignty has been forfeited, and we're working very hard on behalf of the Irish people to regain sovereignty and to get back into the international market so that we can take control of our own destiny. That's our agenda. That's what we're working on. Our situation is not comparable to the situation of Greece, which is much more acute. Greece is a country that needs to be rescued. Ireland does not need to be rescued.
Donnelly, fair point. We heard, I suppose, Minister Howland saying that there as well. What's happened to Greece?
Yeah, but we're compounding two different things. Greece is in a much more serious situation on the ground because the Greece economy is a basket case, and the fundamentals of the Greece economy are in no way comparable to us. We are a sophisticated, modern, strong economy who ended up bailing out a bunch of European and Irish financial institutions, and therefore we have the IMF in the country. So of course we're not seeing the same thing. That's not the point. That's not how you judge the negotiating strategies. You judge the negotiating strategies based on what you manage to get. The conversation at the European Summit this weekend with regard to Greece is, should Greece get a 40 to 60% reduction in its sovereign debt? We are not having that conversation because we are accepting the IMF plan. And just finally, I think I really just have to challenge the suggestion that our debt is sustainable. Konstantin Gurdjieff has done some analysis recently to suggest we are the most indebted country on earth. It's not sustainable.
Brief final point, Minister. I mean, it doesn't fill people with hope when you see tonight there's going to have to be another summit next Wednesday because there is no agreement. That does not fill Irish people with great confidence that this situation is ever going to be resolved.
Well, these issues are complex. They're very complicated, and I think that it is important that European leaders, while there is a very clear deadline with the upcoming G20 summit, there will be a European-wide solution before that. But it is important that there is adequate time to discuss and tease out the issues and come up with the best possible solution to put an end to the uncertainty in the market that exists. And I'm just to say finally, Miriam, I'm very glad that Stephen Donnelly says that, you know, we have to be judged on the results that we achieve, and I certainly hope that he will continue to acknowledge the results which this government has achieved in our negotiation strategies so far.
One last question, and it's a yes or a no answer, because you didn't answer me. 4th of November, $1 billion bond, is it going to be paid in full?
At this point in time, nothing is set in stone. Michael Noonan is constantly negotiating to reduce our debt burden. So I'm not going to comment about a payment that has yet to happen. But I will say that Michael Noonan is consistently working on that agenda on behalf of the Irish government.
Stephen Donnelly, thank you both very much. Richard.